Welcome back to Morning Express. In case you're joining us now, it's 20 minutes to 8 o'clock and well, this is the way it is. Today we're looking at disaster management and how prepared are we as a country, but not just as a country, but even as individuals. The question we had asked earlier on is, do you know what to do in case of a disaster? And well, one might say the nature of a disaster is exactly that. It finds you unawares, it does not knock. But what do you do once you're found in that position? Do you know what to do in case of a disaster? A quick reintroduction of the guests that I have with me in studio. We have Brian Mutie and Sylvia Kamati, who's the head of Red Cross, and that's head of health at the Red Cross. Let me start with you, Sylvia. When I am face to face with a disaster, where do I start? Because of course, number one thing is it has caught me off guard, so I was not prepared for it.
Yeah. I think the first principle, what we always tell people, is ensure that you're safe yourself. So safety comes first. So if you're faced with a disaster, let's say, for example, it's a fire or it is a road accident and you want to support, make sure that you are safe yourself and you don't put yourself into danger when you're supporting. And then two, I think basic principle is you need to, at least before, you need to have some basic first aid skills. That comes in very handy. I know it looks like an age-old statement telling people to learn first aid, but first aid comes in very handy because then you're able to know what to do to either help yourself or help the person who is injured or the person who is going through the problem you're going through. Then also understand what kind of emergency contacts and lines you need to have. It is essential to have certain numbers with you. You need to have the nearest police number with you. You need to have, maybe right now in Kenya, you need to have the number for the Red Cross because they would come in handy to support you when you need, number 1199 comes in very handy. And then also you need to have an ambulance number because those are critical numbers that you will always have to call when you are in an emergency situation. Because you can do yourself, you can do something as a person, but you need to ask for help to be able to assist others properly.
And even as you assist, you probably need that backup.
Exactly, yeah. So you need to ensure you're safe. Don't put yourself in danger while trying to help because you might end up being a casualty yourself. And then have some basic first aid skills, and these you need to acquire before. You cannot start learning when you're already responding to an emergency. And then know which emergency lines to call. All right. Yeah.
Brian, one of the questions one might also say or wonder is whether we have enough backup when it comes to emergency services. You've got the fire engine, you've got the police, you've got ambulances, and we have a good number of them that are privately owned. But do we have enough government support in terms of emergency services?
I think it all boils down on the birth that the government has given or the kind of attention that the government of the day has given to matters of emergency and disasters. Because, of course, this is always manifested in the event that a disaster strikes, and that's how you understand the status or the level of preparedness the government or the kind of commitment that the government has actually given to matters of disaster management or in times of emergencies. But I understand that, the government has always been very vocal in terms of addressing this issue. It's only that we have some culpable people who have actually decided not to take this issue seriously. And you could see, for example, when fire hit Kijiji some time ago, I think you could see the governor actually being so much agitated, and it went all the way to even firing some of the people who are culpable or people who are actually, responsible for ensuring that the fire engines are set with water, the drivers are always on standby, and there's always a way of mitigating on that. But that never happened. And the response time, of course, being an issue in Kenya, is something that also needs to be addressed. The response time between when you have to address to reach, that particular area of incident. So that says something about the government commitment in terms of ensuring that the people's safety comes first. But I also want to say that there is also the so-called institutional level in terms of commitment to address that. When we have individual responsibility in the event that a disaster strike, we also have institutions mandate, and some of the issues that the government has to do is first of all to set what we normally call the desk help, help desk, sorry. And these help desks are normally, set up to ensure that there's an easy coordination of, the whole process, where people have to report there, people have to go and give their contacts there in the event that they have separated with their loved ones. The help desk where they can also give some blankets in the event that the issue requires some blankets. Help desk where people can also access some basic foodstuffs and medical facilities and so on and so on. So those are very key issues that need to be addressed, or the government government is always, you know, keen to ensure that it has in place when disasters hit. But something that my dear friend has not talked about is the issue of individual responsibility when it comes to disasters. You have to ensure, and this is something that has always been disregarded, and it might be very simple, but it's very important. And this is ensuring that your battery or your phone battery is always fully charged, or it has levels of battery that in the event that you separate with your friends or with your loved ones, you are able at least to, you know, make one phone contact here and there and ensure that at least you are able to understand what is their status and how they are faring.
Okay. Sylvia, you talked about basic first aid skills, which many of us may not have, or maybe we have naturally, but we don't know. I remember a time when we were in schools and we would be taught basic, what they'd call basic first aid skills. Is it something that you think is being taught now and being taught enough? And secondly, where can one get these skills? Because they may be the difference between life and death.
Exactly. I think I love the new curriculum. I think it has some aspects of health and nutrition that have got some basic first aid skills for children at that tender age. But I think it's important to go through a first aid training. First aid trainings are available at a number of agencies. Red Cross offers first aid trainings, St. John's Ambulance offers first aid trainings, and there are other private firms that also offer first aid trainings. But I think it's essential for people to take personal responsibility, to have some basic first aid, because with that, as you've said, it can actually make a difference between life and death, even in your own house. How many of us know what to do, for example, when a child is choking? You know, before you go and start responding to a major emergency somewhere else. Right. There are simple things that people look at them as very simple, but that first aid can actually help you save a life, even in your own house. So I think it's important for people to take that personal initiative to be trained on first aid, and get to St. John's, get to Kenya Red Cross office anywhere in the country. They'll offer you the first aid. Yes, Brian. Training.
Just something that almost disappeared from our mind. I think we do not have to see disasters sometimes, especially on matters of flood, there's always negative. We also have to devise ways of how to, you know, tap the potential or the positive benefits from such eventualities. For instance, currently the country is actually experiencing a lot of flooding in most of the areas. But 2 months down the line, you'll find that we have dry taps and so on and so on. So how do we now make best use of these kind of, you know, eventualities? I'm so sad that in my houses, as of now, I think I'm running dry taps. When actually I can't even make it all the way to the main road to catch up a vehicle, just access it through my car. And you ask yourselves, what is the leadership doing about it, especially in an area which is a metropolis like in Nairobi and the environments where the water catchment is so huge and the roads are also a source of vessels of transporting this water. I think it's a high time that we become proactive and find ways of utilizing this water, maybe coming up with a water treatment plant, coming up with a PPP, which is normally a public-private partnership, coming up with an idea that can actually see an establishment of a water reservoir and then a treatment plant which can supplement the existing water facilities. Because I'm told that Dakaine has its own challenges and we cannot rely on one single source of water for a country which is having a boom in terms of population growth. So these are some of the issues that we need to, you know, think outside the box so that we can see how we cushion or we can tap from these kind of interventions.
Sylvia, while we're still on individual responsibility to disaster management, we're about to wind up, but what would be the rule of thumb? What are some of those things that I need to be aware of, to look out for? Because, like we mentioned earlier, a disaster by nature may find you completely unprepared, but it helps for you to have prepared mentally beforehand as opposed to waiting. I normally say, if you get, for instance, into a hotel room, it doesn't help when you read the fire escape route when the fire is on. You need to have read that before so that at least you're somehow prepared. So what are some of those mental notes that we need to have before a disaster happens so that when it happens, all we do is kick in what we already knew?
Yeah. I think in addition to first aid, you need to actually understand your environment. You need to have a high index of suspicion, not become too paranoid, but high index of suspicion, understand the environment you're walking into, what are some of the hazards around there. It might be maybe you're walking next to a road, maybe a road traffic accident could be a hazard there. It might be getting into a congested room and maybe a fire could be a hazard. So understand your environment and know what to do when there is an emergency that then strikes in your environment. So I think, for me, those would be the key things. So apart from having your first aid skills handy, you also need to understand your environment, map out the hazards, mentally. You might not need to do it physically. And also understand then what do you do in case of that hazard that happens.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we are now joined by another guest from Nakuru, and basically just weigh in on this as we get close to winding up. But hopefully he's been listening, and just to get from you maybe some of the things that we may have left out. I know that you're in Nakuru and you probably saw firsthand what was going on or what has been going on. Your advice to start us off? All right, Pius Masai from Nakuru, and hopefully he can hear me now. But just your advice on what you've seen so far and how what's happening in Nakuru currently.
My advice is that what is important is the community need to understand that the dam that collapsed area, is it an hazard place? Is it not a safe place? We have seen, like yesterday, about 3,000 people coming from various different counties in this country were trying to intrude the security area, trying to make it as if it was a tourist place, because people are coming from various locations through the bush, want to see the dam that collapsed. We advise that let the public keep away. The area is not safe. It may be a secondary incident. So it is important for them to understand that hazards still prevail. Let them keep away. And what's important in disaster management is prevention, mitigation, and preparedness. It's important that every community needs to understand the hazards and risks within the area, and that one they should be assisted by the local community administrators.
All right.
It is important that disaster management is a responsibility by, yes.
All right, Pius, just to maybe take you back a little bit and to understand, is the place now cleared? Do we, can we now say that the dam is now safe? We do know that the government was releasing some of the water safely. Can we now say that the dam is, has been put in a place where it is secure?
We wish to assure the people, the governor has been here yesterday evening to confirm that, because engineers were upstairs, up the hill, whereby they were being assisted by the Kenya Defense Forces Disaster Response Unit to discharge the water from the topmost dam and another dam which is closer to the school here. It has been discharging water up to even today. I confirm to the public that the area is safe. The report that we have been given by the engineers, the area is safe for them. There's no more danger about those dams because water level has gone down and they're still discharging. It is safe. What we're only advising is we are discouraging people who are making it as a tourist place to go and visit area that the dam collapsed. Let them keep away from that area. We still have hazards in terms of the wall may collapse and they may have a secondary incident.
All right, and also your operations in the area. Do we have any new developments in terms of people being found? Those that were saying that their loved ones still are missing, do we have any developments on that?
The development that we have, that the area is safe, and we are still doing what we call, we moved from response phase, we closed, now we are in the recovery and the construction phase. And I confirm that according to our meeting yesterday evening and up to today morning, there's no new development. Okay. All missing persons were identified, no new issues about new people being maybe recovered. No, it's nothing like that, but we are still having minimal search. But we don't have any other person reported missing, but the search is still being conducted in a low level, and it's still on at low level. If anyone has any information about anything, because you cannot rule out anything about that, we are still conducting the search in low scale. Otherwise, there are no new development other than what we said yesterday.
All right, thank you very much, Pius Masai, who is the National Disaster Management Unit. From the National Disaster Management Unit, they're just giving us an update on Solai. Now, I would like to wind up, and let me start with you, Sylvia Kamati, on your closing comments on disaster management and generally what you'd like to advise the public.
I think one is disaster management. I would like to note it's a collective responsibility. So each of us has a role to play. The government has a role to play, and we all should put our heads together because we cannot say one person should do the other. So we take collective responsibility. Let us ensure that we protect ourselves, protect our country, and protect our people.
All right, yeah. Brian?
Absolutely. I think the issue of drills, I think, puts the country on alert every time that in the event that disasters strike. Therefore, this should be a routine issue, not from fire issues, not from floods, not from issues of terrorism. I think we need to make this as an habitual issue for a nation as Kenya, so that people are always prepared in the event that disasters strike. And therefore, it is also imperative for us to take this as personal initiative to ensure that we are safe in the event that disasters strike. It doesn't knock, because fire will always be there, floods will always be there, terrorism will always be there, and so on and so on. So it's a matter of personal responsibility.
All right, thank you very much, Brian Mutia and Sylvia Kamati, for joining us this morning to look at the way it is right here on Morning Express. It's now 6 minutes to 8 o'clock. We're going to take a short break. Today being Monday, we've got Sports Chat coming up, and I'm sure Robin Toskin and his team have a lot to tell us about the game yesterday and much more to do with sports. So do stay with us right here on Morning Express. We take a short break. We'll be right back.